Morning, everyone. My name is Zach Kramer. I'd like to welcome you all to our Coffee and Connections event hosted by the Young Professionals of Minneapolis. Coffee and Connections is an open discussion with young leaders in the community about social challenges and actionable ways that we can make a significant impact. Today's guest is Lul Osman from the Brave Foundation, and she will be discussing women empowerment and equity with us today. Welcome, Lul.
Thank you. Thank you.
A little background about Lul. She is the founder and executive director of the Brave Foundation, which stands for Brilliant, Resilient, Ambitious, Vibrant, and Elite. The Brave is an organization that aims to empower young Somali American girls and women to become leaders in their community and around the world by focusing on their minds, body, and spirit. In high school, Lul was the president of the peer meditation team and was amongst 10 students selected to attend the 10-year anniversary conference of Peace Jam in Denver, Colorado. It was there that she had the honor to meet amazing world leaders of peace, such as the Dalai Lama, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and other notable Nobel Peace laureates. This experience highlighted for Lul the social conflict communities face and inspired her to become a catalyst for change. Lul is now driven to give back to her community through real positive work, and currently she works for the Minnesota Department of Administration in the Office of Grant Management and serves on the Ramsey County Advisory Board, the Somali Key Leaders, the South Advisory Council for Minneapolis Community Education, Equity and Diversity Impact Assessment, and many other affinity and philanthropy organizations. Lul's mission is not to get young, underserved girls at the table, but to get them a seat at the head of the table. So thank you for joining us, Lul, and we are thankful to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, you guys.
So just a little reminder on today's topic, we'll be talking about women empowerment and inequity, and we'll see just kind of where this conversation organically goes. But aside from the little spiel I gave about you, Lul, do you want to tell our listeners a little more about your life journey and what led you to this cause of women empower themselves?
Yes, definitely. It did start at an early age. It started around when I was in middle school, high school, just trying to come into terms with my self-identity. I grew up in St. Paul, where the Somali population during that time was very little. And a lot of my friends were non-Somali. So I always kind of battled with identity issues because when I'm home, I spoke a language, but once I leave the door, I spoke a different language. And I was grateful to have amazing friends from different ethnicities who understood my culture, who understood that I couldn't do certain things that they could do. But as I was aging and growing, I was becoming more hungry for my identity as a Somali. And when I started realizing like there was no camps for girls that look like me, because when my classmates would go to camp, there would be no issues. Their parents spoke the same language as the leaders that were taking the girls on camp. But it was issues for me to go because my mom's like, I don't know, how am I going to communicate with these people? How do I know who you're with? So I found the hunger of trying to basically build a bridge between those gaps. And now that I'm in a full adult, for the youth coming up, I wanted to be that Somali speaking for those parents who don't speak English to feel safe, that there's culturally sensitive space provided for their daughters, who we're going to keep in mind at first for their safety, their culture, their religion. So that's kind of where my background came from, of wanting to start the organization, as well as seeing abuse of alcohol in the community and substance, opiate. And it was more like, okay, maybe if I created activities for the young woman, then it would occupy that free time. Maybe they're just not having things to do and places that they can relate to and feel safe at. So, that's kind of what pushed me to start my journey to serve in the community.
That's great. So to give our listeners a little more context as to uh, the Somali culture, do you mind giving us a little history and the significance of the Somali presence in the MSP community and the challenges that your culture faces?
Um, I don't ever like generalizing, so I'll just
Sure.
speak in terms of, what I see and what challenges I hope to kind of help, because not all Somali people would have these challenges.
Sure.
But some of the things that it's little simple things that you wouldn't even think about. It's like swimming. Culturally, we're allowed to swim, but it's all about having that culturally sensitive, appropriate space to do so. We can't go swimming at the regular YMCA because there's going to be mixed genders. So the Somali culture, our religion plays a lot of factor. We have to be modest. You get what I'm saying? But again, I don't want to generalize because it's each to its own and however they want to represent themselves. But the typical, cultural, the way we represent ourselves is to be modest, is to make sure that a lot of our activities are appropriate for our girls to have their space with religion and culture matching and coming hand in hand. So that's a lot of the issues we face. And when we speak of you will hear a lot of Somali women leaders that have organizations speaking in terms like their main focus is to provide that culturally sensitive space. And that's what we're referring to. It's where our girls can come, be themselves, be modest, don't have, if they want to take off their headscarf, they can because they're amongst themselves. And amongst themselves is just not Somali women. It's all women. We could take off our headscarves around women, but it's just we have to be modest around, men or other people that. So we just gotta be sensitive towards those things. So, like I said, simple things like swimming. Um, we don't have places for us to just go and swim if we wanted to go swim. As I've had Brave organization, I've worked really hard to try to partner up with certain places in order for us to provide a slot for Somali women to swim. And it's unfortunate because some of the places they give us is like the not wanted space that no one wants to swim in because it's broken down, it's dirty, you wouldn't even trust your body get in that pool. So when they offered me that pool the first time, I said, absolutely not. I would never go in that pool, let alone bring my girls. No, we deserve a little bit more nicer pool, So then gratefully there was a place that decided to partner with us and give us a slot to use their pool for 45 minutes. I believe it was every Sunday for 45 minutes. That's a great start, forever grateful for it. But that's not beneficial because, well, that's not beneficial for everyone, but that is beneficial for a lot of people because what if that 45 minutes doesn't fit into your slot? What if you don't have a babysitter? What if you have class, you have work, you have that slot for your group of women to go swimming? So the issue is yet we have not found anyone who's willing to invest into our community to be like, okay, maybe we can get a 24-hour rec center for the Somali women where they can go for resources, where they can go for swimming, where they can go for gym. And we don't have to feel like we're just checking off a box by giving them a slot and saying, oh, yes, we gave them, because that's what it's starting to feel like when you try to hand over a pool that you wouldn't even allow your legs to go in or allow a 45-minute slot. It's like you're just trying to check us off to saying that you're providing these things for the community.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, looks like we're getting a little feedback. That's better. So correct me if I'm wrong, but just to let our listeners understand like the significance of the Somali presence in the Twin Cities community, just from my quick Wikipedia search, it looks like the MSP Somali community is the largest Somali community outside of Somalia in the United States or the entire world.
I would say the world. I would say for sure 100% it's the United States for a fact. We have the largest Somali population in Minneapolis in the United States. I would say the second to Somalia, but again, don't quote me on that because I don't have no statistics pulled up, but for sure.
I did do a copy and paste of Wikipedia and it says United States and
okay.
for the MSP region, so not just Minneapolis. That's pretty amazing. So it's definitely a reason that we should be paying more attention to ensure that your community is represented because they have a significant presence here for sure.
Exactly. Thank you. That would make sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's see what else. So I guess talking about the organizations that are helping empower Somali women. Obviously, there's your organization, but are there any other organizations local to the Twin Cities that are working to empower Somali women?
There are a lot. There are a lot. Just last summer, just this past summer, there was a topic going around in the community finally that surfaced about sexual assault, sexual abuse. And we, Brave organization, reached out to Somali other led women organizations to kind of come together and basically provide this bigger space for the women to come and tackle this issue, talk about it, provide them the space, go on a retreat. So there are two organizations right now that just come up on the top of my head. There's this organization called Elites that I had the pleasure to work with about 2 times on a workshop. Amazing organization. They as well work with women empowerment, but they're more focused on the politics sides of things. Like for women who want to go into politics, they kind of groom them. So at the least, I apologize if I'm saying it wrong, but I feel like that's what they do.
Okay.
And the other organization, it's a newer organization. I think it's called Afimad. Both of them are Somali terms. So Ada leads means she leads, literally translates to she leads. And yes, Afimad translates to health. So they're the organization we did a retreat with that took a few girls into a camp area and had the most beautiful, uplifting 3 days I've ever experienced in my life. And their organization, it's more about the women healing spiritually, mentally, just, they work a lot around healing, hence why they're called Afmat. So those are two organizations I can basically think of from the top of my head and vouch for that they do great work from what I've experienced.
Awesome. And besides like the swimming opportunity, what are some other things that the Brave Foundation is working on to empower women?
We do the local activities, swimming, biking in the summer program, because again, we can bike. There's this misconception that we can't do anything. We can do it all. We can bike, but it's all about, is there bikes that are accessible for our dressing? So Nice Rides were kind enough to partner up with us through another organization. And for 3 years in a summer program, we were able to do some biking in the group bike rides for 3 summers. And then we also do cultural enhancement. Like I said, I personally suffered with self-identity growing up. So we kind of do a lot of culture stuff to kind of let the girls know it's okay to be proud of where you're from. It's okay to be proud. And it's okay to be American because that's where we also are. It's okay to be Somalian American. You pick and choose what works for you as an individual and basically how you can define yourself. So we do a lot of that. We do mentoring. We are partnered up with Minneapolis Public Schools. Due to COVID, we haven't, but prior to COVID, we used to go into the schools every Monday, have something called Shahan Shaka, literally translated tea and talk. So we would talk about school, resume building, all that good stuff, relationships, healthy relationships, how to identify relationships. But we also do college applications with them. And then we're also working with Youth Prize to help girls job shadow, career readiness. So Brave is trying to basically tackle everything we were longing for our youth to provide for the youth to now have it. So we do a bit of everything, yes.
Yeah, and what would you say are the biggest challenges that you're experiencing with all these activities and efforts that you're trying to put on?
The biggest, everyone applauds of how great we're doing and how impactful the work is. Like every year, we also put on a big event for the community on the opiate crisis, just to provide resources, awareness, and let them know that it's hurting our kids, like it's really affecting our children too. And everyone just talks about how great it is, but it's a nonprofit. So the spaces cost, getting people to speak cost, um, getting anything done, providing beverages cost. So resources an issue for sure. As well as resources being an issue, funding is an issue. And, someone to actually believe in your community and say, we need a long-term fix and not a checkbox. Because like I said, I've been doing this community work for a very, very long time, but I've been working with Brave for 4 years, and it's starting to feel like a check off. When you go sit down and talk to people, it's just like, okay, temporary fix. But no, right now, after 4 years of doing organizational work for free, with no funding, no resources, no guidance, I want long-term fixes, So I think that's the big issue. It's like, we need a center for the woman. We need where the woman can go to. So it's like, who's the right people to navigate? Like you mentioned earlier, Minnesota does have, Minneapolis in particular, their largest population. So when are we going to start investing in these communities for their growth and for their youth and for the long term, and not just think about short fixes?
Yeah, and it seems like strategic partnerships and sponsorships from corporations and other foundations would really be beneficial for your organization.
Fact. Thank you. You're putting it in good words.
In summary, for everyone listening,
yes,
that's what we need.
Yes, yes.
So I guess, and how has the recent events of 2020 with COVID, as well as the murder of George Floyd, how has that affected your organization and your strategy going forward of how you might want to do things differently?
Yes, so as everybody knows and see in the news, it affected our community very, very hard, as well as majority of other communities. The George Floyd incident, it touches home, because at the end of the day, that's a Black man. Even though we're Somali and he's African American, we're looked at the same. Our struggles are completely different, and I will always acknowledge that we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the African Americans and their long hardships. But when you look at race, we're in the same category. So it's hard, because you feel like it hits home, and then it's in Minneapolis. It's home, So it was hard, obviously. The looting was hard. The curfew was hard. On top of that, the COVID was hard, especially when everyone is different. Like for me, I'm a busybody. I work full time. I have an organization full time. I'm trying to start a business. Like, I'm just a busybody. I'm always on the go of doing things. So when the world kind of forced me to stop and sit, it was devastating, because it's like, what do I do? And I learned about myself. I'm a stress eater. You get what I'm saying? So I ate a lot. That's what I did. I ate and sleep, but it was devastating. And it did put a pause to Brave's work, because we couldn't come around each other. We couldn't have that human interaction. Everyone needed to stay safe. Our priority is to make sure that our communities are safe. So we had to cancel all events. We had to make sure that anything that we've done, programs that we had to switch over to Zoom. It made us realize that going long term, why now my gear of vision has changed. It's like, no, we need long-term fix. This whole time we've been okay and satisfied with the short-term fix, but this whole George Floyd situation, unfortunately, the COVID, the looting, it just taught us that we need to value our community a little bit more. If no one else is going to value, we have to value us a little bit more, and we have to ask and fight for and go after the things that we think our community deserves. So that's the train of thought that it changed for me personally. And then, it made me want to get involved in more equity and diversity and inclusion kind of work. It made me want to kind of be at the table when these conversations are happening, because a lot of the time, we're not at the table. These decisions are being made for us. So it's like, what application do I need to fill? Where is this? Where do I need to check off? Where do I need to be? So it made me realize, slow down and be present for where you're needed, and not be a part of every single thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I'm definitely with everything that the young professionals in Minneapolis was doing prior to 2020. We were very much a social networking organization, and we did have events and efforts to get involved in the community. But after the event of 2020, we definitely realized there's a greater opportunity to expand our social awareness and be more strategic in the ways that we are volunteering and helping the community. Because even though, cleaning up the greenway is great because it takes trash off the ground, that is not as impactful as helping, for example, Somali girls feel empowered to do whatever they want to do. So that's definitely the direction that YPM is going. And we're trying to find organizations like yours and others that are trying to uplift the struggling people in the community, because a lot of young professionals do have a lot of ambition and resources to actually make a difference. So hopefully through these conversations, we can actually do something. And I guess with that, what can we as young professionals do to help you?
Exactly what you're doing. I'm grateful for you guys. You guys reached out. You guys wanted to learn more. You guys are asking questions, or you guys are trying to learn how to engage. So far, amazing. We can probably work together along the future and see how we can align. But as of now, I'm just appreciative that you guys are saying, okay, cleaning, of course, that's good for the environment and that's good for society, but we need to do more. We need to actually get to know the culture more. We need to figure out what the community needs and how can we provide. That's an absolutely good start for me. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I guess if there are any existing opportunities that you have coming up, just for our listeners and our members that want to do something, rather than just talk about the problem, like tell me what to do and I'll do it. Obviously, having these conversations is the first step, but the second step is signing up to do some type of volunteering event or something. And does your organization have any upcoming opportunities that our members can get involved in, or with your partners, something that we can do?
Yes, probably for now, we don't have nothing scheduled out that's coming. We've been really quiet 2020 and 2021 for a year now, since of March of 2020, just due to COVID. So we're playing it by ear because our organization has a lot to do with bringing the community together, bringing the girls together. So, and renting out halls and spaces. So for now, we're just on pause. We're just like, let's see what the governor has ruling for us. I'm kind of hearing rumors that things are going to be uplifted, restrictions are going to be lifted soon. Then we can start planning. But as of now, I don't have any events for dates to actually give. But once I do, I will definitely forward those over.
Great, thank you. And I guess in terms of ensuring that just through regular social interactions that young professionals have in the workplace or in the community, are there certain cultural things where it would be appreciative if young professionals stood up for Somali women and the Somali culture in a certain way, like certain disparities that we might commonly see that would be a good example that you wish some young professionals would stand up for those that are challenged?
Yes, for example, you asked me earlier about like issues with COVID and stuff. Like, okay, like for the older generation, they don't speak the language. There's a lot of misinformation that's happening in the community in regards to COVID-19 and the vaccine. So there's a lot of elderly who don't speak the language who are misinformed. So a lot of the community leaders, a lot of the women-led organizations want to have things in the sense of like educating and engaging with the elders in our community to kind of teach them the actual truth. So it would be nice if there was like someone who was like in that field that could provide those spaces and that could educate the women-led organizations that are not in medical fields to kind of have the right resources and information to provide for our communities and our elderly. That's one thing that I can think of. Another thing is, like, if you talk to every single woman-led organization in Minneapolis, the first thing on our list we're most likely to talk about is culturally sensitive space. So that's a huge thing for us. In the sense of like, we just want our women to have, okay, there's a situation that comes up, like instance, this summer it was sexual assault, a huge issue where women should always feel like they have a safe space to go and talk to. We were outside in the park, which was beautiful, beautiful. You know what I mean? We love greenery. We're outside in the park. But sometimes, you know, you want to have places that can be long-term effective. Winter kicks in. Where are these girls going to go? So those are the kind of things that I would love young professionals to think about when they think about how they can be helpful for Somali women in the community. Just knowing that we need culturally sensitive spaces. We need resources that are actually, we need things that are currently circulating around the community and around society that's happening. When COVID exists, okay, the Somali community is gonna need somebody who's well informed about this to talk to their community. Just, we need things when it's happening. The information's too, because people get misinformed in the midst of all, you know, but that's the two things I would probably ask for first.
Yeah, and it seems like even though we personally might not have the expertise and resources, a lot of us have a expansive network of people that can make a difference, or we just have the ambition and drive to find out who those people are and help connect you with those organizations. So I would definitely say for our listeners and our members of just always being aware of that this is a issue in the community and actively reaching out to organizations like Brave or others to understand what their problems are and how we can build partnerships and connections that will provide them resources. Because obviously with our bank accounts alone, we can't provide you all the funding and resources, but we can help be a voice in the community to talk to the people that have those resources and try to give you sponsorships and partnerships that will get you to where you want to go.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So with that, I guess I'll open it up to other listeners that might have questions or things that they want to say. So I'll stop talking and leave it to everyone else.
I'd like to ask something.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah. I guess just in a general way, when you're trying to say culturally sensitive space to go, can you kind of define what that means? Like what's not provided in resources in the community already existing that's not a safe space where women can go? If there are, you know, spaces for women specifically, what's not being addressed for the Somali culture?
Okay, thank you for that question. I'll give you some examples. If you go swimming, some women, they're not used to, they're just, it doesn't matter if it's all women, they're just personally not used to taking off their head scarf or taking off their certain like zipped up swimwear. Other women will feel, I've had multiple women of different ethnicities come up to me and be like, why are they going in the pool so like, you know, dressed and, you know, basically splashing, so other women would not feel comfortable, right? And then when we say culturally sensitive space, we mean a space that understands the culture, a space that understands that you could probably be, you know, going through the worst thing of, a Caucasian could go through sexual assault and a Somali could go through sexual assault. It would be a completely different experience. It has been groomed for, you know, even though it's hush hush for all communities and all culture in that category, but it's been groomed more recently that a Caucasian woman can express and talk about it and go get justice. We're still really behind on that, very, very behind on that. So you would need a culture space that understands where you are culturally and what's appropriate and how to basically maneuver and go forward to finding help. You kind of get where I'm going with that? Yeah. So it's just completely different religions, completely different cultures. The women just want to be around a space or be in a space where they feel like they're understood. That's huge when you're healing. You want to feel understood. So if I go to a typical place that all women are open to, that's fine because but I said you can't generalize everybody. Some people, Lul Osman would be comfortable with that because I'm comfortable in that scenery, but another Somali woman may not. She may want that safe space for her to feel understood. So it's also thinking about all the different people within the community and how they define the space to be safe. And from a lot of the times we ask the questions to these youth and to the women that we work with, what do you guys want from us? All they say is somewhere for us to come together and talk, feel understood, where we relate. So that for them is culturally sensitive space. And that's where we all come with the term, like, that's what we need, because that's what each and every single one, even from the early 20s to the middle schoolers, to the high schoolers, because our struggles are just different and our struggles more aligned. And it's just more like, I just feel right now, this is where we are as a community. We need this space where I feel like I'm not the only one out, that I feel included and relatable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess can't think of any really good questions, but I think it was a really good presentation. I definitely very informative and helpful. One question I could think of, and I kind of thought of this in a more the negative way, but I don't want to make you name names, but kind of playing off the culturally sensitive spaces question, is there anybody in the metro that's doing kind of a good job of that? Like in terms of, I don't know, having a space or like staff that are able to provide, like, you know what I mean? Like relate and provide that culturally sensitive space, or just like people who are doing a good job around town? Yeah.
You know, that's a really, really question. Thank you so much. I'm trying to think because I don't like discrediting people at all. I'm trying to think, have I ever came across someone who wanted to provide that space? You know, I would say like Minneapolis Public Schools, I work with them. There is a lady in particular named Gloria. She no longer works there. She would strive to help me, you know, find places. So I would give her credit 110%. I would give the other Somali women-led organizations credit because when I reached out to them and I said, hey, this big issue is circulating in our community, we need to come together and lead by example and be there for our women, they all showed up. So I would give them credit as well. But as far as anyone else who I see dedicating their time to, and actually, no, because I didn't come across, maybe there is, you know, not to say there isn't any, but I can only speak from a place where I'm at. I haven't met any.
Thanks, everyone. And I guess an additional question that I had was, obviously this conversation right now is the first step for us listening in of expanding our awareness about your culture, but obviously there's a lot more to dig into to ensure that we are sensitive of those things. And where can we go to get a foundational understanding of your culture? Because obviously it's not just us listening in that need to do that. Like really the entire city needs to do that. So is there places people can go on a macro scale to really get a solid understanding of your culture so we can be sensitive to that?
Yes, I know I don't hold their schedule off top, especially with COVID, but I know that the Somali Museum, which I believe is around Bloomington and Lake. Don't quote me on that, but it's called the Somali Museum. They do very well of educating people on the culture. You know, I can't educate on the culture because I don't know my culture long enough to know the history, but I know my culture in the sense of what we dress like, and, you know, but if you want that real culture history, the Somali Museum would be the best place in Minneapolis for you to go and learn that.
That's great. So unless anyone has any other questions, I guess in summary, the one thing that we can do to spark a impact is, I guess, expanding our awareness of your culture, and also actively finding other sponsors and potential partners that can help you get to where you want to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That was a beautiful summary. Yes.
Great. All right. Well, this has been a great conversation. Where can people go to learn more about your organization?
You can go to our Instagram page, which is called Be Brave MN. That is the same as our Facebook. You can go on our website, which is www.bebravemn.org. Those are a few places you can go.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll follow up with you afterwards. We'll try to compile those various organizations that you talked about, and we'll provide a summary where people can learn more about your organization and the other great organizations that align with yours. And so next month's topic, we'll be talking about how we can better support local businesses. And make sure, if you're not already a member for YPM, sign up. It's less than $5 a month, and that provides access to our 4 events a month that we put on, as well as some additional events that we'll be doing this summer. So thank you again, everyone, for waking up with us this morning. Thank you, Lul, for waking up with us this morning and telling us a little bit about your story and your organization. My mind is definitely expanded, and I hope everyone else is as well. So thank you, everyone.